Side pretty heavy between 80-94 and 159th because of that crash. Also on 57 heading north, just south of Steger, there's a report of a rollover crash, and they have the left lane blocked. Dan Ryan Express lanes inbound heavy from 47th. The local lanes heavy from the Stevenson to Roosevelt with ongoing construction in the right lane. And the Stevenson inbound slows between Cicero and Kedzie, and again between Ashland and the Dan Ryan. Finally, on the Kennedy inbound, it's a little heavy as you travel between Harlem and Lawrence, and again between Chicago and the Byrne interchange. That's traffic. I'm Paul Bodenloss on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our AM 560 Weather Center. A great day ahead. Plenty of sunshine. High 76. 55 at O'Hare. Next news at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas Coffee, roasted fresh daily in Batavia, Illinois.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy, and great legal minds are weighing in on the Ruth Bader Ginsburg vacancy. One Rob Reiner tweeting out over the weekend, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's body isn't even cold and Mitch McConnell is dancing on her grave. This is war. Dems have powerful weapons. Now is the time to use them. Okay, what are those powerful weapons, meathead? Another political tactician slash expert in constitutional jurisprudence, that would be Nancy Pelosi. She was on with Stephanopoulos on This Week on Sunday, essentially trying to develop what Rob Reiner is feinting, that there is something that House Democrats, maybe in conjunction with Senate Democrats, can do to derail a nomination and a confirmation hearing.
Some have mentioned the possibility, if they try to push through a nominee in a lame duck session, that you and the House could move to impeach President Trump or Attorney General Barr as a way of stalling and preventing the Senate from acting on this nomination.
Well, we have our options. We have arrows in our quiver that I'm not about to discuss right now. But the fact is, we have a big challenge in our country. This president has threatened to not even accept the results of the election with statements that he and his henchmen have made.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility.
Hilarious.
We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. We have a responsibility to meet the needs of the American people. When we weigh the equities, protecting our democracy requires us to use every arrow in our quiver.
Yeah, okay, enough with the Robin Hood metaphors for a minute. What exactly are they referencing? I mean, you can go full Gary Oldman and impeach everybody if you want in the House, Barr, President Trump, Mnuchin, whoever else. How do you stop the president from nominating a replacement for the post? And how do you stop Senate Majority Leader McConnell from calling the question? For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Ilya Shapiro. He's the director of the Robert A. Levy Center for Constitutional Studies at the CATO Institute. He's the publisher of the CATO Supreme Court Review and author of the well-timed new book, Supreme Disorder, Judicial Nominations and the Politics of America's Highest Court. You might need to add a chapter, slip opinion, if you will, Ilya. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you'll have to buy a second edition, but my publisher had to pay extra for this timing, I think.
Yeah, right. You better get writing here soon. Get your legal pad out. So, any insight into what a noted legal scholar Meathead or Nancy Pelosi have to say about these weapons that they won't discuss in detail that they have at their disposal?
Well, the only thing they're alluding to is impeachment, as you mentioned. And the reason this is important is because if the Senate receives a bill of impeachment from the House, they have to drop everything they're doing to take it up. But the thing is, they can just have a vote and dismiss it immediately. They don't need to take weeks and weeks to process it or anything like that. So if the House tries that kind of stunt, I don't think it would be a major obstacle for whatever Mitch McConnell has in mind.
Right. And with respect to Senate norms on Supreme Court nominees, here we are again pretending that one side is playing politics and the other side isn't, that one side is interested in political power and the other side isn't, that one side cares about political norms, particularly when it comes to Democrats. Good piece in the Journal over the weekend reminding us all about the assault on nominee Robert Bork, reminding us about the nuclear option being exercised by Harry Reid over appellate court nominees. So, I mean, the whole Senate norms argument that is trying to be advanced, the so-called Biden rules versus McConnell rules, these are just guys in the moment exercising the authority they have based on the numbers that they oversee.
Right. Historically, it's just been purely about political power plays. So there have been 29 times where a vacancy has arisen during a presidential election year. Each one of those 29 times, the president has made a nomination. Then when it comes to the Senate, it really depends on whether the Senate is controlled by the same party as the White House. If we have united government, then almost every time there's been a confirmation. If we have divided government, then almost every time there has not been a confirmation. That's just what the historical record shows. It doesn't mean that Mitch McConnell has to go ahead or whether the vote needs to be before or after the election, but it's all political calculus. This is not about some constitutional order or anything like that.
Right, and so with respect to moving a nominee, there's nothing that would impede Mitch McConnell from taking up the nomination as soon as President Trump offers it, ostensibly this week, as he said.
That's right. It's all about whether McConnell has the votes. And he's lost two, apparently. Collins and Murkowski have already said they're not going to vote to confirm at least before the election, if not the inauguration. That means there's only a margin of one more because it's a 53-47 Senate right now.
Right. And again, a historical perspective here. Ted Cruz brought this up on Stephanopoulos' show too this week. Actually, Jimmy Carter, lame duck appointment to the federal bench of Stephen Breyer, who went on to be Bill Clinton's second Supreme Court nominee and ultimately Supreme Court justice. But that actually occurred after Carter lost the 1980 election and after Senate Democrats lost control of the Senate in 1980. Nonetheless, Carter and Senate Democrats went ahead with that appointment. And I know that's not a Supreme Court appointment, but Cruz's point, I think, is a salient one. I mean, talk about the ultimate in rejecting the fact that the American public had just rejected you and your party.
Right, and as I describe in my book, Supreme Disorder, that's not the only time that there have been lame duck confirmations, including to the Supreme Court. There have been 9 lame duck confirmations to the Supreme Court, including of nominees nominated by a president who had just lost re-election. Most notably, John Marshall, the great Chief Justice, was nominated by John Adams after he lost his re-election bid to Thomas Jefferson. I mean, that's, happened 200 years ago, of course. But again, this is all about politics and political calculus and game theory about if the Republicans in the Senate do this, will Democrats, if they win the election, pack the court. That's the sort of thing. But it's not about anything other than that kind of political calculation.
Well, and by the way, isn't that the point? Isn't that the point of our co-equal branches of government? Isn't that the point of having elections and saying, I want this party in charge of the Senate, I want this party in charge of the House? Things would be different if Democrats were in charge of the Senate, if they had wrestled control of the Senate over the last 3 cycles. They have not. And in fact, Senate Republicans expanded their majority in 2018. And so that's the people saying that I want divided government. I want, when it comes to nominations, I want President Trump to be in the White House, and I want Republicans in control of the Senate. And so they should exercise the power that was conferred to them by the people.
Well, that's the major difference between 2020 and 2016. In 2016, President Obama had just gotten reelected in 2012, and then the Republicans won the Senate in 2014, so kind of a split decision from the voters. Here in 2016, Trump won, and in 2018, the Republicans expanded their majority in the Senate. So that's a political distinction, certainly, that Mitch McConnell is raising, and ultimately it'll be for the voters to decide whether that's what they want.
Do you have any perspective on some of the names that have been shortlisted, at least perception-wise? Amy Coney Barrett on the 7th Circuit, Barbara Lagoa on the 11th Circuit seem to be the top two names being circulated and discussed, but there are a few others, including Allison Jones Rushing, who's on the 4th Circuit. She's very young, 38 years old. But the other two women, the judges, are also relatively young by Supreme Court standards, Barrett, 48, and Lagoa, 52.
Yeah, Rushing, I think, is too young. They'll probably hold her for a future possible vacancy. But Barrett and Lagoa, I think, we have a very short, very quick short list here. Barrett has a bit of a longer record in the sense that she was a Notre Dame law professor, has now been on the 7th Circuit, appointed by President Trump for 2.5 years, and has written opinions there. Lagoa was on the Florida State Intermediate Appellate Court for 12 years, and I have not read her opinions there. I'm sure the White House, the Justice Department are poring over those. And then she was less than a year on the Florida Supreme Court, now less than a year on the 11th Circuit. Appealing political move, potentially. She's from Florida, Cuban-American, important constituency and state and all that. We'll have to learn more about her if she becomes the eventual nominee. But those do seem to be the top two, and President Trump has said it will be a woman.
And the now infamous interchange between Dianne Feinstein and Amy Coney Barrett during her confirmation hearing to the 7th Circuit, in which Feinstein said of Coney Barrett's Catholic faith that the dogma lives loudly within you. That was not a compliment. It seems to me.
Yeah, that sounds like a rejected line from Star Wars or something. I don't know if attacking the Catholic faith is going to be a winner for Democrats if Barrett is the nominee. So that's also part of the political calculus.
Well, it seems to me that obviously Roe v. Wade will be front and center, as it always is, at least since 1973. With respect to these nominations, and that's the way they'll get at Coney Barrett's Christianity is through Roe v. Wade and saying, well, she's just dogmatic and she's some sort of Christian theocrat rather than a measured jurist.
I'm sure. I mean, that's the political calculus. I'm a constitutional lawyer, not a political operative, but
right.
The idea is which nominee might drive out your base better, which nominee might convince swing voters better. That's all being discussed in the White House.
With respect to Ruth Bader Ginsburg's jurisprudence, it seems to me there's this is often the case. There's a confusion between being consequential and being a heroine, or a hero, as the case may be. The idea that you can be impactful, but that impact is very much in controversy, as opposed to somebody who's just supposed to be celebrated as a trailblazer. And so I wonder how you review Ruth Bader Ginsburg's time on the high court in terms of being consequential versus being someone who advanced the foundational principles of the nation as enshrined in the Constitution.
Well, she's been called by many people, including her old buddy, Antonin Scalia, the Thurgood Marshall of the women's legal movement in terms of going against employment discrimination, sex discrimination of different kind, women's legal equality. And that was even before she got on the court, before she became a judge. Once she was on the Supreme Court, she didn't have that many opportunities to write landmark majority opinions. The most famous is probably Virginia versus United States, requiring the Virginia military, VMI, to admit female cadets. But more of her renowned opinions, and this is probably why she's become a progressive heroine, and the notorious RBG, as she was called, is for her dissents in cases involving voting rights and employment discrimination and you name it.
Bush v. Gore.
Famous for Bush, absolutely. Little Sisters this past term, a lot of cases and she was, when she announced her descent from the bench, she would wear a special, what are called jabot, which is, some people call it a neck doily, a piece of jewelry or accoutrement around the neck, and sort of that became part of her mystique.
He is Ilya Shapiro. He's the director of the Robert A. Levy Center for Constitutional Studies at the CATO Institute, publisher of the CATO Supreme Court Review, and author of the forthcoming book, September 22nd, so that's like tomorrow. It's out, Supreme Disorder, Judicial Nominations, and the Politics of America's Highest Court. You want to pick that up. Ilya Shapiro, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. And you join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following is a paid political announcement.
The Springfield politicians are pushing a constitutional amendment on the November ballot.
It would give the General Assembly new powers to drastically change income taxes in Illinois.
If passed, Springfield politicians would have the power to create an unlimited number of tax brackets and raise income rates on every group of taxpayers at will, including middle-income families.
Their tax hike amendment would approve in advance any future tax increases politicians want to impose, with no limits, no accountability.